Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's 5 o'clock on today, the 16th of July, and that means that we can begin the meeting of the Cabinet. So I'm going to run through the standard agenda items. First is apologies for absence. I have Councillor Blacker joining us online. There are no urgent matters. As ever, if you wish to speak to any of the confidential appendices on any of the reports, then please do indicate to me beforehand, as we'd have to both shut off the YouTube and clear the gallery. So I try and, as we always, like to avoid that unless absolutely necessary, but please do indicate before doing so. Are there any declarations of interest? I see no indications, therefore we turn to the minutes of the previous meeting. Are they a true and accurate record, and therefore are they agreed? There are no appointments to subcommittees or to outside bodies, so we move to item number 7, the Community Charter. Councillor Hashani.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really pleased to bring forward this report on the Community Charter. The Community Charter formed a part of the Ealing Labour 2022 manifesto and has formed a central part of the council plan in this administration. I'm pleased that the Community Charter as it stands was developed by a group of an advisory group consisting of community representatives representing a broad range of the council's demographic. And in doing so, they came together to outline what they expect from the council in our future work with our VCFS groups, our expectations for genuine and meaningful participation, engagement and decision making with the communities within our borough. They outlined 10 key principles which are in the report for this community charter and which we've agreed in full. We continue to work really closely with our communities, and we're so proud of the partnership and the work we do with our communities and their contribution to the work we do together. In this report, we also commit to ensuring the community charter is embedded in our council governance processes and practices. And one of the ways which we will be doing this is that all teams across the council will work to develop an action plan that specifies the appropriate steps and methods of engagement they will take for every initiative they start that essentially checks against the community charter principles. And with that, I'm putting forward this report. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Hashani. I was with Simon Lightwood just now, actually, with Councillor Driscoll, doing a walkabout in Northolt, where the Minister, the Parliamentary Under Secretary of State for Local Transport, was able to sort of join us to see the consequences and the impacts that the Visions for Northolt programme has delivered for Northolt, which is a very large programme with funding from government, but effectively to help us move forward on active travel in a part of the borough that historically has seen a significant amount of underinvestment. And I was able to talk to him a little bit about actually Ealing's journey on community engagement, on consultation, and on some of the concepts around social proof and radical transparency that have all been incredibly important to our journey over the last 4 years. And I was sort of remarking to him that some of the early challenges that we had around active travel, in the sort of the lack of experience perhaps that we had of deploying it, meant that we were actually really able to learn some salient lessons about how you get consent for change, about how you get buy-in, and about how you sort of demonstrate impact to this point where the things that we do can have consent for change in the way that we're doing, not just in our active travel schemes, but also the principles that are being deployed to other parts of the council too, from the way that we deliver our engagement activity with service users in adults and children's social care, the work that's happening in housing in terms of our tenants and our leaseholders, and so much more. It's an evolving journey, and it's really good to see those principles set out in the community charter. It's a good piece of work that rightly has taken some time to develop with the people for whom we serve, who rightly want to hold us to a set of standards and expectations. So it's a good day to have been having that conversation with him, and it's a great piece of work, and officers and certainly members should be commended for the rigour that's gone into it. So thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the Cabinet? In that case, I'll refer to the recommendations in the report and ask that they're agreed. Thank you very much. So we now move to EV charge points, levy procurement. Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you. Ealing is taking over the consortium leadership for several boroughs in North and West London. We've taken over the leadership after the withdrawal from that position for a different borough. So I think it's to the credit for our officers to step forward and to ensure that we secured grant funding so that we can continue to deploy not only our own EV charging, but also across West and North London. So it's a great credit that we've stepped forward and taken this on to ensure we can deliver our programme, also ensure other boroughs can help with this shift towards EV vehicles as well. So with that, I commend the report. I think it's a very positive news that we can actually take this. And this is the concluding report when all other consortium boroughs have done their governance as well to allow this to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from Cabinet? I did have a request to speak, but I believe that request has been withdrawn. And in that case, if Cabinet members are happy to proceed, again, directed to the report, the recommendations to the report, and ask that they're agreed. Thank you. So we now move to item number 9, the housing strategy 2025 to 30. Councillor Brett.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really pleased to bring this to Cabinet today. This is the revised housing strategy, which sets out the Council's priorities to not only address the current needs, but also future housing needs. This will help us plan our housing needs going forward. It helps us manage and maintain our properties, and also ensure suitable accommodation for the future. Thank you.
Okay, I do have requests to speak from councillors Malcolm and Gallant. And as you're both not in the room, we will go to the Leader of the Opposition first. So, Councillor Malcolm.
Thank you, Chair. Please, can the portfolio holder expand on paragraph 2.21? How would building a new town outside Ealing provide housing for Ealing residents? Would it be entirely through exporting people on the housing waiting list from their own areas? And other than that initiative, what else is proposed to actively meet the housing target?
It's a very specific question there. These are just proposals at the moment, and that would be something that we would have to look into in terms of where the need is. But we do have kind of between 7,000 and 8,000 people on the housing register at the moment. So we are, we've got a multifaceted approach in terms of acquiring accommodation, building accommodation, and that may also include building a town.
Yeah, I think if I'm maybe permitted to sort of add something here, one of the fundamental challenges that London has in terms of its housing market and the supply of affordable homes means that we consistently and persistently see very high levels of homelessness in the context of homelessness presentations to the council, and of course how we as a local authority don't just meet our duty to house people who present themselves as homeless, both in temporary accommodation but of course permanent settlements. Every London borough is making placements to temporary accommodation, and in terms of disposing of their housing duty outside of their borough boundaries, and in many cases there are boroughs, ourselves included, who unfortunately have to have some very direct conversations with residents about where that might be beyond the boundaries of London. This is not a situation that London has not been in before. In the 1950s, 60s and 70s, many of the new towns that were built, places like Stevenage and Harlow, were built specifically to deal with the challenge of overcrowding in London and the consequences of a war that destroyed so much of our housing stock. I think in the 21st century, when we know that we've got so much housing pressure, our policy always remains to keep people in borough where we possibly can do. But I think every London borough, as the government have started to at least try to have the conversation, needs to think really carefully and clearly about how we deal with the challenges that we've got ahead of us. There are plenty of boroughs that we could be working with, plenty of local authorities on the periphery of our incredible city who would love to see housing growth happen in their locations. Certainly they've got their own housing pressures. We've got a lot of expertise to be able to offer to those local authorities, where we've got a platinum planning service and of course some great results in terms of delivery of genuinely affordable homes over the last 4 years. So I think, you know, what we're saying is, you know, let us be part of the conversation about new towns so that we can bring our expertise to bear and perhaps help in local authorities where some of that's been a challenge. But you know, I think you know, that's I think probably, you know, a tiny project, a tiny and periphery project in the grand scheme of what is an incredibly long and detailed housing report. But can I then go to Councillor Gallant?
Thank you very much, Chair. I do apologise for my slightly unstable internet environment. The strategy indicates that the national policy may require you to increase supply by 2,000 units per annum, which is, as stated, a very ambitious target. Are you worried that this is simply too ambitious, if not an impossible target? Second question, if I may. Given that good management within the social housing and private rented sectors is one of the strategy's priorities, should the strategy not be addressing the dual problems of poor HMO management and the continued presence of unlicensed HMOs in Ealing? Third question, if I may, and this is a very general one. Do excuse me. The Elizabeth line is a very, very important factor in London's transport system. It's a great boon for Ealing. But I think everyone acknowledges that it's driving up house prices and rents compared to neighbouring boroughs to the north and the south. So what plans do you have to mitigate this differential?
Yeah, there's, well, I want to go in turn. I think there's some stuff in there on planning, and I think there's also some stuff in there on regulation. Perhaps we will need to tackle issues of the free market, maybe with the Adam Smith Institute and Councillor Gallant, but we'll give it a go. Councillor Brett.
Thank you, Councillor Gallant, for your questions. So in terms of national housing policy being too ambitious, I'm very much of the view that again, just to reiterate, we have nearly 8,000 people on our waiting list in Ealing alone. We have nearly 3,000 families in temporary accommodation. We continue to see pressures of homelessness. So actually, I think that this is a good target for us. And I think that, you know, we have to be ambitious in order to alleviate some of the issues we're facing and challenges we're facing in housing in Ealing. In terms of management, in terms of HMOs, we've got an excellent record in terms of HMO licensing, and we absolutely hold landlords to account. We do not give any licenses out without prior inspection. And any unlicensed properties that we are made aware of, we take action, and we also enforcement where necessary. So I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, Councillor Manro, do you want to comment on local plan targets?
Yeah, so local plan target, as the housing strategy indicates, at the moment it's 2,157. We will know later on when the new London plan comes in what our allocation will be out of the 88,000. We are expecting an increase, not in the region of 2,000 per annum. I think probably up to about 3,000, we think, but we don't know, so we're still waiting. It is what it is in terms of, you know, the need is there. Every part of the borough says, and in terms of the Elizabeth line, I'd rather have the Elizabeth line than not have the Elizabeth line, because we've got economic growth coming in, we've got investment coming into the borough, and people do want to build homes and other facilities because of the Elizabeth line. So yes, the costs in Ealing, we are a very high cost in terms of our home prices, but that's similar in London. We're not an exception in that terms. So I think to say that we'd rather not have the Elizabeth line is a bit crazy. It's one of the biggest infrastructure projects that's bringing wealth and bringing development into the borough. So I think, Councillor Gallant, I'd rather have the line rather than not. Thank you.
Yeah, and to be fair to Councillor Gallant, he does rightly point to the issue of land value lifts and sort of the agglomerative effects of the economy on London. We know that. So you've probably heard me say many times before, some of our greatest strengths in London are also our biggest enemy, because invariably that land value challenge does of course push. It's why it's the policy of the administration to deliver 4,000 genuinely affordable homes over the cycle of the administration. That's going to be challenged because of the macroeconomic picture in the economy. I mean, in terms of interest rates, inflation, the availability of both mortgages for people to purchase homes at the end of the process, but equally developers being able to access capital to build things, and indebted housing associations, and indeed our HRA's ability to borrow to invest in new homes and to maintain our current stock. I think the point being is, as an administration, we're absolutely committed to delivering the homes that our residents need, whether on the waiting list or whether they're in the private rented sector or whether they're looking to purchase, because everybody deserves a decent quality home, a genuinely affordable home. And we will therefore use the opportunities that are presented to us, whether it's the Elizabeth line or other infrastructure investment, to squeeze every last penny out of the development process to secure homes through Section 106, or indeed, as we are doing, spot purchasing and investing in our own stock. So, as you rightly say, Councillor Manro, Crossrail, the Elizabeth line helps us to do that. If we didn't have the Elizabeth line, we probably wouldn't have the level of regeneration that is happening, and we wouldn't have those development opportunities to secure social homes from. So, that's ultimately the challenge. And Councillor Gallant hopes to one day run the council, and that's the challenge that he, if he ever does, will have, which is that ultimately you have to take decisions and you have to take from them as much as you possibly can do for the benefit of your residents. So yes. Are there any other comments or questions, Councillor Donnelly?
Thank you. I just thought I wanted to welcome what's here, because as the portfolio holder with the financial responsibility, I mean, Councillor Brett and I spent a lot of time over the last couple of years dealing with the tide of challenge that we've had, particularly around homelessness. And I think it can be easy in such circumstances for focus and the perspective to shift from thinking about this in terms of where do people live and people's lives, quality of life, to being about financial management and crisis control. And I've always said, well, I've said in recent months, that local authorities can't resolve the housing crisis in this country. I mean, I think that the drivers for resolution will come from central government, but we must be ready and we must be match fit to do our bit in all of these areas. And I think the priorities that are laid out here set a framework in which we can do that, in which, and particularly if you take priority 4, well, we go far beyond simply trying to fend off those looking for help, to actually being able to provide a positive message and direct people to the areas which are most effective for them moving forward. So we can't necessarily solve the crisis of demand or the crisis of supply, but we can, I think, do our bit to be ready to implement every pound of government money that comes our way in the most effective way.
Thank you. No more indications on that basis, and I will thank the officers for work on this to get us to this position. Just browsing some of the contributions as part of the consultation, you sort of very much do get a picture of in and amongst others some of the big challenges that are out there, and that's, I think it's really important, as we talked about the community charter today, that we sort of don't lose the sight of those direct lived experiences of our residents, whether they're in our stock, whether they're in PRS, whether they're looking to sort of get onto the housing ladder. That's got to be the sort of the central principle here, which is this isn't just a strategy that we work to, this is a strategy to achieve something, which is the safety and security of people living in our borough. So thank you to those involved. On that basis, can I ask then that the Cabinet review the recommendations that are set out in the report and ask that they're agreed? Thank you. Let's then move to the retrofit consultancy services for warm homes, and that is Councillor, my apologies, Councillor Brett. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So last year we were awarded nearly £6.5 million for a warm homes grant. This in the Cabinet in May, we accepted that grant, and this is basically just to allow us to then go out for retrofit consultancy services. So it's just asking permission for that, please.
Thank you. I'm sure Councillor Driscoll, with his climate crisis hat on, is fully in support of the recommendations. Anything you want to add?
No, I think this work is desperately needed. I mean, but it's not only about reducing carbon, it's about making homes more warmer and affordable, and that addressing those social needs and economic needs are as equal merits as well. So it's very much welcome.
Thank you very much. Any more contributions? I didn't have any requests to speak on that. So if everybody is happy, could I ask you to review the recommendations in the report and ask that they're agreed? Thank you. So we move to High Lane Estate, demolition of phase 1 buildings. That is Councillor Manro.
Thank you, Chair. So whilst we've had some issues with the contractor for this site, these buildings blocks are actually been empty, and there's issues around safety. The community centre is being shut down because it's not sort of usable. So we need to move forward. So this report asks us permission to allow the demolition of these blocks, ready for us to work through with a new contractor to start phase 1. And this will enable us to make sure those buildings aren't abused in terms of antisocial behaviour, etc. And we can actually carry on the project.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments, questions? I mean, this was the first ever place that we had an estate ballot that we won, by an overwhelming majority, because the residents there absolutely want us to see us deliver on their aspirations for better homes. So it's taken us a bit of time, hasn't it, because of contractors, but I think this hopefully will be a good indication that we intend to carry on as we've set out. So I'm very content to sort of move forward on that basis. Are we all happy? So if we're no more questions, then yeah, recommendations agreed. Thank you very much. Item 12, future of Warren Farm update reports. Councillor Hashani.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm pleased to bring forward this progress report on Warren Farm. I think last night it was heartening to see the consensus for the support for our parks and green spaces in our borough, and that was across sort of the political spectrum. I think we recognise that we've got so much to offer, and our parks really do offer some of the best sort of green spaces actually in London, and Warren Farm is actually key to that. And we've always been very ambitious. We're ambitious for all of our green spaces, but we've been a bit ambitious about Warren Farm, and we've been wanting to create that nature reserve that I know the community wants, and we've been working really closely in partnership with them, alongside increasing access to sport and sporting facilities. And hopefully in this report you see that progress in achieving that. I'm pleased that we've secured an important outcome in the negotiations with Imperial College, which means that we've got that land in the north of Warren Farm Sports Ground, what was known, to build the sporting facilities. But what that means is that we have all the space in Warren Farm Sports Ground, as it was known, to be a nature reserve, and that's really, really exciting. We know that that's what the community wants, and we've been working really closely with them to achieve that. So in the report you see a bit more about how we've been developing the management plan, and that's been in partnership. The report also outlines the marketing exercise we've undertaken for the sporting facilities, and we put forward sort of the preferred bidder, which we will continue to negotiate with, hopefully once this report passes at cabinet stage. And taken together, I think, you know, this development is really important. We know that this is what the community wants, but also it's fulfilling key council ambitions in climate change, increasing biodiversity, but also in response to our sporting strategy to increase access to sports facilities for the borough's growing population. I would like to thank all the residents for their involvement and all the community groups who have taken time to engage with us. And we look forward to continuing to work with them in the next sort of phase as we hopefully conclude this phase of the works for Warren Farm. Thank you.
And I really want to sort of add my congratulations to officers, members, and of course to campaigners who've been, you know, with us on this journey now for the last 4 years. It's almost a year to the day that when I became leader of the council, I went to Warren Farm to meet with the campaigners for a nature reserve and made them a direct commitment, which was that it was the stated ambition of the administration to deliver both a sports facility for the residents of Hanwell and Southall, as well as the rewilding of Warren Farm. And we've been, you know, various different iterations of that plan as we've gotten through the last 4 years, some that didn't involve Imperial College at the start when they perhaps couldn't see the vision that we could see. And after some, you know, very direct negotiations with Imperial College, they're now on board, which means that certainly since that decision, we've been able to sort of really work up those proposals and get to this stage. And it's therefore a really incredible, it's an incredible testament to the spirit of the campaigners who, yes, rightly have been putting pressure on us and of course onto Imperial to get them to perhaps see the vision that we perhaps saw at the start of this journey. And to get to this point, I think it'll be a really fantastic moment where we can go to the community and say that we are going to be able to deliver precisely what we set out, which is the best of both of those worlds. And I really want to commend everybody involved in getting us to this position. You know, it's been a long time coming, but I'm glad that it's a position that we can be incredibly proud of. I have a question from a member of the opposition, so we go to Councillor Malcolm.
Thank you, Chair. Now the boundary matters have been agreed with regard to the application for the local nature reserve status needing to be submitted to Natural England. Could the portfolio holder let me know when the council intends to do that and the likely timescale for the LNR being agreed, please?
Councillor Shani.
Thank you. And Councillor Malcolm, thank you for saying yesterday that, you know, you support the report, and I'm pleased to have that consensus on this. On the application for nature reserve, so we've worked, as I said, with the community. The management plan is almost in place. There is an extra level of we need to complete, and that's really around the boundaries of the nature reserve, and partly that depends on the sporting facilities coming through. So in the next stage, following this cabinet report, we will be able to be negotiating with the bidders. At the meantime, we will be talking to our community to share sort of the plans. And once they're happy and once we agree these sort of boundary lines, that's sort of the final part of the process, which we can put into the report and put in the application for the nature reserve. So what I'm trying to say is that partly depends on sort of the negotiation in the weeks to come. But key to that is, of course, bringing our campaigners and community groups on that journey, making sure that we're all happy with those boundaries. Then we can put in that application as soon as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, and hopefully the delegations that are contained within the report to officers make it very clear that, you know, we want this to happen, you know, with speed and alacrity, and we're delegating responsibility so that we sort of can get that moving. You know, this is not coming back to cabinet. Hopefully, it means that we can get cracking and start enjoying a bit more of the form. It's already there, so the wildlife is already there, but maybe we can enjoy it a bit more in its formal status as a nature reserve. Councillor Newstab.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like a really significant and special day. So I wanted to thank officers and Councillor Hashani and all the local activists. Warren Farm is an area, an issue very close to my heart, being adjacent to my ward in Hanwell Broadway. And I'm just incredibly proud of the way that we've been able to achieve what we set out to do, to work with residents on that vision. To make it a reality, and it's a really, really special part of West London. So I would commend anyone who hasn't been there to get down there and experience it, and being able to support this biodiversity growth in such a key part of London feels really significant and really special. So I really look forward to us being able to build and protect the urban countryside right here in Ealing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So on the basis that I don't see any more indications to speak, could I ask that then Cabinet review the recommendations in the report and ask that they're agreed? Thank you very much. Therefore, that brings us to the conclusion of the Cabinet meeting. As ever, I struggle to find in my papers the precise date on which we next meet again, but I'm certain it'll be in the future. So we'll see you then. Thank you.